Welcome back. Again, we're discussing the exciting topic of carbon taxation. It's going up. There's going to be a hike. And also the clean fuel standard. Dan McTeague, president of Canadians for Affordable Energy, I have a question for you. Earlier in the program, Elliot Hughes mentioned jokingly that he's not the mastermind behind this because he happened to work for I guess, the first minister who brought this in and now the last one who commented on it. Speaking of masterminds, you and I have had this discussion, Dan, of Jerry Butts. He's an advisor to the Prime Minister, or former advisor to the Prime Minister. I know you were concerned about a report that he helped edit or helped author earlier this year or earlier last year. What are your concerns? Is he the mastermind? Should we blame him?
Well, I think there's a lot of them that are out there and they're doing very well, thank you. But yes, Mr. Butts is not just, obviously a confidant of the Prime Minister and doing very well in terms of his own work and advocacy. There are many others that are, of course, working with him in concert. And interestingly enough, if I stood back and tried to connect the dots with all of these organizations that have popped up, not just on advocacy for carbon taxes, but on the Great Reset or residual recovery, or I should say resilient recovery. It feels like residual recovery some days. These are all strong, well-versed advocates who spend a considerable amount of time, some of that public money, pushing data that at first looks to be rather interesting and convincing. But when you start to look at it and piece it together and break down what they're actually saying, as we did with the LFX study back in October on the CFS, we realized that there's a lot of information in there that is highly suspect, particularly as it came to CFS. And I'm going to be more specific about that because we determined that the government of Canada had not done a cost-benefit analysis. When we did one, for every dollar of environmental benefit that the Canadian public and the business were on the hook for, there was in fact a cost of about $6. So clearly, you lose not only the public's interest in that kind of circumstance, but when you have false data or questionable data or data based on pushing another's agenda on a country like Canada, which is energy intensive, then you start not just losing people, you tend to lose, I think, the narrative when it comes to why these carbon taxes are so important, why we have to be ahead of everyone else in a country that's lost tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars in investments, primarily in our most important sector, our energy, our oil and gas sector, which supports our social programs in this country, supports our standard of living, and supports the undeniable beauty of this country, which is affordability for just about everything. Okay,
and just to give some context as to why I asked for about Gerald Butts' involvement, because I'm from Ontario, I still live in Ontario, and I recall our experience with clean energy, and I know he was involved with that. Elliot, is there a place where green energy has worked in the world? I know Germany is up to 42% renewable energy, up from 10% in 2005. But households pay around 40 cents a kilowatt. Canada, we're at 17 cents on average now. Where does this work? Can you give us an example?
Well, I think it's important that we remember kind of why we need to make these kind of changes. I mean, the climate change phenomena is real, and we are losing time by the day if we don't act. And so, I don't like paying taxes. I'm sure you don't like paying taxes, and no one on this panel likes paying taxes. We are in a time of transition, however, away from oil and gas, which people are moving away from whether we like it or not. And it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen next year, but it's starting to happen. And we need to be part of that transition. We need to be ready for that transition. And so you see what's happening in Europe, whether it's Germany or in the Nordic countries, they're preparing for this transition as we speak. And Canada right now is behind. Announcements by the government recently are good news and steps in the right direction, but we need to begin being more serious about these changes and about this evolution to make sure that we're part of the party when the US, when Europe, and when China, who is already leading on the clean tech front, when they really start to make moves. We need to be able to be there at the table. And right now we're not. And so a carbon price fits into that discussion. It's not perfect. There are some challenges throughout on the road, but we need to move forward with it. We need to be predictable so that businesses understand the costs that are going to come and work around those and build those into their future plans.
Okay, and on that note, we're going to have to wrap it up. Thank you to the three of you for joining me for this very lively discussion.